We have the Canterbury Agricultural and Pastoral Association, Jeff Bone. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Right, 10 minutes. I'll keep it quick. Listen, the first thing I want to make very clear is that I'm not here looking for money for the Canterbury AMP Association. We have... That's all good. No, I think it's important for the councils. Right. That's good. I think what I'm here to talk about is the jewel of the southwest. So the Canterbury Agricultural Park, which is obviously owned by the city, from one corner to the bottom corner is 2,000 metres, and from the bottom corner to Hagley Park is another 2,000 metres. So you've got this extraordinary asset, 128 hectares, which compares to Hagley Park's 164 hectares, literally within the city bounds. My presentation today is simply to explain why allocating $50,000 a year for 10 years is a good use of funds. As I mentioned, not a request of funds for the Canterbury AMP Association. I have a deep appreciation, ladies and gentlemen, for the very complex series of decisions you're making regarding the opportunity cost of allocating limited capital and operating funds. So why should you choose to allocate spending on this park over the next 10 years? Returns so far. Purchased a park in 2000 for circa $2 million off the AMP Association, who at the time were in financial difficulty, left them with an $800,000 debt, then on-sold the strip of the park to NZTA for $6 million, and recently mined a significant portion of the park for gravel, so you could save $2 or $3 million in building Napuna Wai. So during your time, that 20-odd years, we've built a sports pavilion changing room for $700,000 for rugby league, and that's the only investment we've made in it. So possibly you're up by $6 million circa, which might make the park the most profitable park purchase in recent history. Your ongoing CapEx budget for the park over the past 10 years, besides that changing room complex, is zero. You purchased a pristine park off the Canterbury AMP Association with significant roading infrastructure and fencing infrastructure and power underground, and have not spent any money on capital improvements to this investment in more than 20 years. To maintain what is a magnificent asset that the council owns, we really need to maintain that roading network, gates, fencing, and that's why I'm proposing a $50,000 a year in CapEx related spending to be controlled by Council's Park Division, but allocated in cooperation with the Canterbury AMP Association, who have a long-standing management contract to run the park. So why will it benefit the city? This is a really important bit, right? So you've tasked Christchurch NZ with delivering major events, and amongst other things. Your submission document clearly asks if the city sees an additional $1.4 million of funding as appropriate use of funds. I'm not sure what this major event looks like, but I know for a fact that you currently don't have a stadium to host it in. Hagley Park is heavily used and doesn't have an underground power network with millions of dollars. And the red zone, although appealing as a potential event destination, would require 20 times the amount of funding that I am requesting to build the necessary infrastructure. Here's the thing, right? If you want to build, if you're going to have a major event, right, and you want to build an athletes' village that, for example, feeds the new Napuna Wai sports hub that you've built, I can pitch 1,000 tents or put 1,000 camper vans on site. I can power the entire system with existing infrastructure. I can build showers, I can build toilets that all feed into an existing established drainage and sewage system, and I can host a banquet for 900 people in the Riding for the Disabled building that's already there on site. Christchurch NZ is in many ways based on the ATED model, and ATED in Auckland, which is their economic development organisation, identified the GEM strategy for major events, right? Golf, equine and marine. They focused on these three areas because it enabled them to attract high net worth individuals to the city, to invest in the city and spend cash with local businesses. Here's the thing, no other city in New Zealand has a facility the size and scale of Canterbury Agricultural Park that has 200 stables, an indoor equestrian arena and an outdoor equestrian arena in the centre of the city, surrounded by parkland with the underground infrastructure to scale up and develop any kind of equestrian event you can imagine. Take from me, the only guy in town that runs a major event, you have a gift staring you in the face in the Canterbury Agricultural Park. The cost of setting up an event of scale at this site is significantly lower than anywhere else in New Zealand because it's designed for major events. And the 50 grand a year that you spend would pale into comparison when measured against if the 1.4 million you're going to give to Christchurch NZ to activate major events somewhere else in the city. If you activate a big event somewhere else, simply the cost of hiring toilets, putting power in place will dwarf the $50,000 a year that I'm suggesting you invest in a fully functioning event space, public space. Then there's the show, 3-day showcase of what Canterbury has to offer. It's a shop front for the city, 100,000 people stroll through it. This alone should be enough reason for us to be continually investing in the look and the feel of that park. And then there's the community use. I work in the park, and this is what I see every day, right? I see kids learning to ride their bikes. I see kids learning to race on their bikes. I see people sailing land yachts. I had a guy who practiced his speed skating and became the world champion. Motorcar shows, truck shows, equestrian events, rugby league, community, dog walkers, running events. This park is getting busier and busier, and we at the Canterbury AMP Association want to encourage more and more community groups to use it. But there's a cost to using it. Things wear out. So the community, through its rates, I believe, and the association believes, should have the chance to reinvest in their own asset. Priorities with that funding. Canterbury AMP identified a requirement for electronic gates that gives both public access and security to the park. The total for 3 sets of gates was circa $70,000. This is about partnerships, right? We've already raised 45 grand of it. Literally, that money's sitting in a bank account. So we've done the hard work. What we're looking for is the extra 25 from the council. And that's one of the things that spurred us to come, because we made that application to the Parks Division and they said, come and make an application here because there's no CapEx funding for your park. Roading repairs. When you purchased this site 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it had perfect roading. Nothing has been done to maintain that roading in 25 years. It's an asset that continually needs to be updated. You currently have heavy traffic movements through it as you're accessing the Puna White site behind it, and you're excavating the flood retention basin across the road from Curlitz. So you are putting a lot of heavy traffic through that site. For the record, I've done my time, right? I go to Bunnings every year with my credit card, I buy the asphalt repair kits, I take them back to the park, I put them out in the sun so they heat up, and I pour them out of the bag, and then I smash all the potholes. Well, I'm not very good at it. And I'm suggesting we get some professionals in to do it properly over an organised period of time. Here's the thing, there's also a dump in the middle of it. It's a beautiful park, and there is a dump with old rubble and rubbish in it that's been identified as having asbestos in it, and there's no budget to clean that out. We should look at this $50,000 a year as a way of going, right, what are the priorities? Roading, dump, gates. And I'm happy for the council parks team to have control over that, as long as they engage with us and take our suggestions. Future development, capital development opportunities. I think the community that uses the park needs to have an opportunity to come up with ideas and put it to those council staff. And then, of course, there's the economic value of your park. Hey, look, $15 million of economic value from the show alone. The Canterbury Sale Yards Company are the central and largest buying and selling of livestock in the South Island. That gives farmers a clear reason to come into the city every Wednesday to do business. Equestrian event. Hey, look, we've already got the most prestigious event in the year in the Canterbury AMP show, but we've also got the South Island Show Jumping Champions and 20 other events. Innumerable community events, and finally, the Riding for the Disabled charity with its enormous indoor facility. I mean, how could anybody put a value or a number on giving disabled children the freedom to ride a horse and live? So partnerships is a really key part of this. The Canterbury AMP Association partners with everybody on the site to help them and work with them. We partner with Parks Division, the Leasing Division, and then of course Christchurch NZ. I work closely with Christchurch NZ in evolving the brand for the show and the strategic direction so it maps with what they're looking to do. But I've also having heavy conversations with all of these groups about how do we create websites that demonstrate the value of this park and show community groups how they can activate it, and how Christchurch NZ can push out to event organisers throughout the world that they can come in and access this extraordinary opportunity. So I also mentioned the gates as a simple solution. We knew we had to get money from the other users of the park because some of them have a commercial application, and they came to the party with the $45,000. So we do know that in looking for money, we've got an opportunity to get money from elsewhere as well. So in summary, let's just finish it up because I can see I've got 53 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, this site is the only site in the South Island with 128 hectares of open ground and a multi-million-dollar power network underground to feed any major event you can imagine. Its trees are now 24 years old and beginning to mature, and we know that the magical ingredient of Hagley Park is its trees and its open spaces. Canterbury Agricultural Park has both, and as they are maturing, the true scale and beauty of this park is becoming apparent. It's a gift to the city, and not only returned a cash profit to you in its first 20 years, but will continue to give a profit and give back to the community in the same way that Hagley Park has over the last 100+ years. I invite any questions.
Well, we've run out of time for questions because we've got 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But look, thank you, Jeff. That was, I mean, it was a very powerful submission. I don't think that questions are going to, draw out anything further from you. You made a really powerful presentation. So
well, I'm available on my mobile if anybody wishes to contact me and ask any questions.
Lovely. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you very much.